Hey everyone, it's Chris at Optimum, and on this week's Community Corner, we're going to be looking at a post from Mohammed who's asking about how to summarize values within a specific number of working days. So there's a couple of criteria here that we're looking to address. Again, summing time for a specific individual, and then within a certain range, and then within that certain range, it's of a certain type. So it's working days as opposed to maybe it's the net total days. So it sounds like they've got a kind of project log where there's a project name, a task, and then date finish and then the total hours that there was committed to that task or project, and then wanting to summarize that by the individuals. So something similar to this. So this application happens a bit in, project tracking, either resourcing, it could be like sprint planning, etc. But you can apply some of the other logic as well to maybe other things like invoice or billing as needed. So let's take a look at our solution for this. So I've got here what might be a translation of Muhammad's summary sheet or task sheet, where I've got the project and the task person, as well as the date finished and hours committed. So this is just maybe a running log of those activities kind of inside. I've got this as a contact field as opposed to a drop-down list, but it works in a similar fashion. Date validation for restrictions and then hours. I've added in two helper columns in here, and this helps us kind of visualize what's going on, as well as can be used in a formula to get these values. The first one is going to be the workday formula or function. And what this does is it's basically saying you're applying the work days between a specified date. So in this case, I am going to write in this formula, well, what is 15 days from today? And that's from in the past for that date. And that basically is saying, well, today is February 14th. 14 days ago, 14 working days ago, so that's excluding weekends in this setup at least, is going to be January 24th. So we're just running that formula in combination with this is recent, and that is just checking to see if the date that was finished is greater than or equal to the working day. So if it's less, then it's not a recent task within that past 15 days, and so I'm choosing to exclude it. So we're applying that logic to 24th, 24th, 25th, etc. So we're kind of seeing that range visually within this cube. So how do you summarize these values together? There's a variety of ways that you can do this. You can do it within a sheet summary, so you don't have to create a secondary sheet, or you could create a report and group it with criteria, which we'll showcase in this session as well. But we'll start with the sheet summary. So now that we have our helper column, so we've got the workday and is recent, that gives us enough information to kind of plug in these fields. So this is a single sheet based solution where I've got the list of my team, Chris, Jake, Jimmy, and Mike in here, and I am doing a SUMIFS. And so the SUMIFS is summing, well, what are the hours that you want, or what's the field that you want to sum? It's the hours committed. And then the range for the first criteria is the task person. So, and then we're evaluating that by Chris Mondo, right? So only looking at, for Chris, the total hours that Chris committed on those tasks, and then we're checking to see if that was a recent entry is the last criteria. So task person is Chris. Is it recent also? Then we're checking that to be true since we're using a checkbox, and then summing the hours committed. And it's the same formula for Jake and Jimmy and Mike, except we're just changing the name inside of the formula. This version, I wouldn't necessarily say is scalable, because if you've got new team members coming on or team members leaving, you may have to add new fields and update the names inside of the function. But if you're looking for a single sheet solution, this is a good way to do it. Alternatively, you can use this with a report. So in here, I'm just using a group report. So I've got that summary values sheet as my source, and I am just showing the hours committed and the date finished, maybe if I want to see what it was. And I'm filtering this very similar to the formula that we have in the other sheet. So I'm just checking to see, I only want to see values from that sheet where that is recent is checked. And harkening back, that is recent is only tasks where it's within the past 15 working days. So this excludes everything else from the side of the sheet. Now I don't have to do any filter criteria per person, because grouping especially by the task person, is kind of what's doing that SUMIF, right? So we're grouping all records by Chris, Jimmy, Jake, Mike, etc. So I can see Chris has an Echo in India project and then 3 and 6 hours committed at those respective dates. So after we've grouped it, we can apply a summary value where I'm just summing the hours committed by that individual. The nice thing this is you can also look at saying like, well, what was the average hours for the projects applied, and you can kind of get those variables inside here without having to rewrite those formulas. So reports are kind of a nice upgrade or alternative view for information inside of your reports. You can apply different sortings or other slices on here as needed. Of course, you could also add more columns if you wanted some extra context inside of that sheet. So that's our take on how to summarize values within a specific time period. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to leave those below or reach out to us at optimumcs.com. Thanks so much.